With the Taliban now in control of Afghanistan, the group has turned to the work of governing. So, I know, believe it or not. Who are the key figures appointed to the new government? Well, they include one of the FBI's most wanted men. Taliban named Mullah Hassan Akhund, an associate of the movement's late founder Mullah Omar, as head of Afghanistan's new government on Tuesday, and Sirajuddin Haqqani, whose organization is on a U.S. terrorism list, as interior minister. Bill Roggio tweeted earlier today, now the Taliban announced its government, it's clear the prevailing wisdom that would be inclusive is dead. When will other canards like it is pragmatic, can govern, wants legitimacy, and will moderate or isn't in its interest to work with Al-Qaeda die? Bill Roggio, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, joins us now to discuss what's really going on here. So let's start with this, Bill. Who's in this new government? The Taliban has announced who is running that country. What do we need to know?
Yeah, this new government is the same as the old government. It's meet the new Taliban, same as the old Taliban. A lot of these guys, there's members, remember the five members of Guantanamo who were exchanged for Bo Bergdahl? Four of them are in the Taliban government. And the fifth one, he's the Taliban's governor for Khost province, one of the most important provinces in the east. Sirajuddin Haqqani, who you had mentioned, he's the head of the Haqqani network, which is part of the Taliban, despite what the White House press secretary and others claim. He is a specially designated global terrorist for his ties to Al-Qaeda. He's also the mastermind behind this Taliban offensive. We could go on and on. One of their deputy defense ministers, designated for ties to Al-Qaeda. It goes on and on. This is amazing. This is completely unshocking. Remember, we had people telling us, oh, the Taliban, they're going to be inclusive. They're going to change. They're going to moderate. Meanwhile, me and my colleague Thomas Jocelyn were saying, look, what you're going to see here is the same old Taliban. You're going to have the same leaders that led this offensive, that have fought for the past 20 years to restore the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. They're going to be put in charge. And a fun fact about the Taliban's emir, it's the same as their old emir. His name is Mullah Habibullah Akhundzada. His son was a suicide bomber in 2017. He attacked Afghan troops in Helmand province. So if you think the Taliban might be a little bit moderate, it's not happening.
Now we've got also reports out there, Bill, of some of those released or exchanged senior level Taliban folks have essentially been recycled back into leadership roles with this new Taliban government. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's the part of the Taliban Five. Those were former Gitmo detainees. Karyakula Fazl, who was the Taliban's deputy defense minister back in 2001. He's their deputy in 2001 again. These guys they're nasty individuals, most tied to Al-Qaeda. Karyakula, who I mentioned earlier, he was the Taliban's governor in Herat back in 2001. And prior to that, he killed thousands, slaughtered thousands of Hazara. This is what the new moderate Taliban that people like General McKenzie, the commander of CENTCOM, have described as our Afghan partners. They're not my partner. I know they're not your partner, Buck, but this is what we're dealing with in Washington these days.
What would it look like if how do you think we'll see this Al-Qaeda Taliban relationship play out? I mean, what's the likeliest scenario in your mind? Because right now we're all being told, oh, well, it wouldn't be in their interest. Pragmatic Taliban isn't going to host Al-Qaeda. Well, the Russians don't necessarily invade a country. They just have people who happen to be speaking Russian, who are paramilitaries, pretending to be insurgents in a province where there's a lot of Russian speakers and declaring what are the ways that the Taliban is going to, that Al-Qaeda is going to seep in here?
It already has seeped in. So, for instance, Sirajuddin Haqqani, he's now the interior minister. He was the deputy emir. The Taliban hasn't named deputy emirs in this government. The interior ministry is going to be one of the most powerful figures. So he's designated as a designated global terrorist by the United States and the United Nations for his ties to Al-Qaeda. A recent United Nations report called him a Taliban leader. There's another one, Qari Fasihuddin. He's a deputy defense minister for the Taliban as well. He led the Taliban's push in the north. He's the man responsible, we discussed earlier on your shows, about the Taliban's northern offensive and how they integrated these various disparate jihadist groups that are Al Qaeda linked, basically Al Qaeda affiliates in the stands. He's a senior member. The Al Qaeda Taliban relationship has remained strong over 20 years, and the Al Qaeda is being rewarded by having these the U.S. military used to call them dual-hatted Taliban Al Qaeda leaders, and that's what they are. And they are imbued in the Taliban senior leadership. You get no better effect for the Taliban or if you're Al Qaeda when you know your allies are in the top levels of the new Taliban government.